In northwest Thailand, 9 miles from the Mekong River, Ban Vinai refugee camp was originally set up in 1975 to help the earliest refugees from the communist takeovers of Laos. Most of these refugees were leaders of people who called themselves the Hmong. They came from the Location Mountains, who were farmers and raised livestock. The Hmong had not always been mountain people. Since there is no written language, no one is certain of where they came from originally. What we do know is that they were lowland farmers from China. Because of invaders 150 years ago, some of them began to move from southern China to Southeast Asia, where they settled in the mountains of Thailand, Vietnam, and Laos. The Hmong had long been known for their fierce independence. Hmong meant freedom. When the French controlled Indonesia in the 1890s, the Hmong didn't like the unfair tax and fought them. That lasted for 20 years. There then followed 30 years of peace. The Japanese invaded their area around 1941 during World War II. The Hmong went to war against the Japanese, but this time allied with France and other nations, and gained a reputation as excellent guerrilla fighters. In the early 1960s, this reputation led the Americans to ask the Hmong for help in the war with the U.S., fighting against communism in Vietnam. The Hmong agreed to fight with the U.S. during the Vietnam War. They fought hard and well. Their casualties were terrible, as much as 100 times the rate of American casualties. By the end of the war, even the Hmong children were being recruited. This was known as the Secret War. When the United States left, Indonesia, the Vietnamese, and the Laotian governments came under communist control. The Hmong were left without allies in the midst of their enemies. Having fought against them for 14 years, the Hmong were now hated by communists who proceeded to bomb and gas Hmong villages. The Hmong had no choice but to flee. On May 26, 2000, Bill Clinton signed the Hmong Veterans Neutralization Act of 2000. It provided an exemption of the English language requirement and special consideration for civic testing of certain refugees from Laos applying for the neutralization. Only those who helped the U.S. military by serving in the guerrilla unit or irregular forces operating from a base in Laos any time between February 28, 1961 to September 1878, or being a widow of a Hmong brethren who has died or was killed in Laos, Thailand, or Vietnam. And lastly, if you were married to a Hmong veteran when the veteran applied admission to the U.S. as a refugee. I was lucky enough to interview a Secret War vet, Nia B. Mua, who was born on June 5, 1948.
ก็คือเขาไปอดทหาร
Cô mua tha hạ xong cái sự cho bùa xa chỗ gì.
I joined the army in 1978. 我家ก็冇อดทหาร
Cô cần tới cái chỗ thì ô mà cần tới tía không thi sống nhai nó mà bây giờ cái chỗ nó cần tới tía high school diploma chế ô cho America có bê tua nhá là cổ tê chế cụ thể tao mua tha hạ.
I joined the army after I graduated from high school. The American army had asked me to join with them in the Vietnam War, so I decided to go and join in the army.
Một tổ cho mà yêu chủ một khi tổ nhá bị hạ rộng nữa.
The war is in the jungle, in the fields.
Còn dọn trong sắp lờ chế bây giờ chủ một dễ khai một tổ nhá là bị khai nhá là rồi nhỏ trò bị hạ rộng bị trông chế là ta yêu khai chế bây giờ chủ mình dễ lúc khai được một tổ nhá là.
What I remember most is in the army, during the war, I had to climb over a certain field to go and look for the Vietnamese enemies and had to go find them and kill them. Yeah, you know, các bạn anh đi cả này là của bây giờ trong đã được có.
Cú tổ giáo lúc thì chờ thì nó chế cú ye mô apply law with train chế lợi ý môn đó được cú hữu tí xì chế cú trả lúc phải trả là simple mà ya law with train.
I'm grateful that when I come to the U.S., I was able to apply for the Lao veteran, and they were able to help me with such program. And even now, my license car registration is listed as Lao's veteran. So I am grateful that Americans have such program to provide and help me. Có học xã đi trả cho Nhật Lan thằng Hạ.
Hay cho tha hạ Nhật Lan mà mà giờ tha hạ America của CIA nữa, Secret War CIA. Cho Nhật Lan màตัวnóไม่ใช่ตัวNhật Lan cổ tê. Chế Nhật Lan nằm ở liều tổ chân bê lưu tế chờ. Chế liều tổ rồi bê chế để chế á lợ. Chế bê vô chung một thị thái ở chung một tổ lợ. Chỉ bố lợ tổ chân bê lưu tế chờ.
I am in the American Secret War, CIA. I feel that the Vietnam are my enemies, and I'm afraid of them, but I'm to also approach my duty as to go and pursue and help the Americans and win over our country instead of letting them win over our country.
Thọ của tha hạ đó của bọn này mới nhỏ lợi ý nhỏ trở lông chênh. Chế của ý một nhỏ bề hạ rộng sĩ tòa lâu chỉ lưu lì một trò dễ Xiong mà này mà trò tất cả là sủa bọn này mới nhỏ là lông chênh.
My life in the war is pretty difficult. I have to leave my families and children behind to go fight in the war for many months, could be many months to years before I can see my family and my wife again.
Chế cú trò mò đó thọ một sĩ tòa nhá hạ rộng lỡ chế cú dạy tuần này thia cú san dò captain nữa captain à chế cú dạy tuần này nhá bề chế cho tha hẳn chế khai một tuần nhá là chế nhá là tuần trò cú.
I was injured while I was in the war. I was a captain, and I had to lead my soldiers up the battlefield to go kill my enemies. So I have been injured, gun wounded on my left upper shoulder.
Cú trò thơ tê mà giờ trò cú sang đi tê nó tù. Thế thì mà giờ trò kia của con tụi nó.
My first injury is my left index finger, and my second injury is my right upper chest.
President Nixon ตัวมหายโจท่านผมบอกปอหาเตียก็ไป bên mông ra America tua nhà là cổ tê xong ít sẽ cho bộ trò chỗ mà bên sĩ tua chọn tua xong ít sẽ bộ xài chỗ chi ít sẽ bộ trò chỗ mà bây giờ là Nixon hạt tiền có bên ba tua nhà là cổ tê giờ lúc tê chấm lo sư đồ nhà là nó chỉ nửa mà thọ bên tổ trò America.
In 1960, I was in a war, and according to President Nixon, he promised that if we lost to the Vietnam War, or if we fought against them, he would promise to bring us to America.
Chế bê, thế là tổ sư lúc tê chờ, blang đờ, trò nhà là cổ tê, ya, lúc blang hình đồ, mình thiên hình gỗ chi, ít sẽ cho bùa, xài chỗ chi, trò nhà là.
And we have lost the battle to the Laos people in Vietnam in 1975. So he had promised, so he was able to bring the Hmong soldiers, the Hmong veterans to the U.S.
Chế bê thế là để nó khổng tổ trò thơ tê, tổ nhỏ trong ban vi này. Thì giờ đi nó chế America là cho khổng can là thế lý tỏ bê cho thả hàn nó ổn định sắp trở tùm trò mình cả tê.
So we had to cross the Mekong River to Thailand. And once we got to Thailand, the U.S. government was able to sponsor us. The first couple group that were in the army to the United States.
Thọ tốt cho lúc tê cho America nó là yên chỉ bố chế khổng can ở là tỏ bên đó mà đi chia lôn liền được bên một cờ nó mà bên một cờ ESL nữa chế mà đi bí cờ hai lô mà đi bí cờ xong đó từ đó tua mộ.
It was hard when we first came here, but the program or the sponsorship that has sponsored us to the United States had classes which is called ESL that we can attend and helped us with our English and our living style and our providing for food and shelter. And we slowly adapt to the American culture.
Usali nó bây giờ mong giờ ít cho chuyện tranh của America có bên đó là của tha hạ America tua nhà là cổ tê bây giờ là sư lúc tê chờ tôi cho lúc tê chờ nó là bây giờ sao tàu in nô ở giờ mong in nô chuyện tranh của mong.
I acknowledge and I respect that there are two of those Veterans Day and Pearl Harbor Day. Based on the Hmong culture, the Hmong people who have fought in the war with the Americans, I feel that I am grateful and do deserve and be honored as well as they are.
Yet for about 400 older Hmong Minnesotans who fought with the U.S. troops during the war in northern Laos, there is still a wound unhealed. These fighters are not recognized as veterans of the U.S. military, nor entitled to the benefits of having been served. A fact they sorely remember at this time each year, as the nation observes Veterans Day and Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. U.S. law prohibits them from being buried in national, state, or veteran cemeteries. They receive no medical or pension benefits. Their names are absent from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. Decades after Vietnam, Southeast Asian veterans continue to experience stresses that can gravely affect their physical and mental health. On the bright side, State Senator Phuong Hurt, DFL of St. Paul, is pushing and sponsoring a 100 grand appropriation to pay for mental health services for Hmong and Lao veterans. Still, the United States opened its borders to these Hmong veterans and their families, offering opportunity, a better life, and sometimes Social Security disability payments. For all that, they are thankful. What they lack is recognition of their military past and their service to this country. The best thing you can do is to help recognize them by being thankful for their service. The Hmong played a crucial role in the military.